Morning, Randytbird here, coming to you on January 14th. I got a rare day off. Just wanted to get out and get some more miles on the Softail Heritage. Beautiful day in Arizona. Broken record. Yeah, people begging for money. Never fails. Anyway, just an awesome day. Riding in a light jacket. Supposed to be in the low 70s today. Still working on the break-in on this bike. Getting more familiar with it. The other day I mentioned I could probably live with this stock exhaust. Well, I'm not so sure that I'll be able to live with that forever, but we'll get there. I'm just waiting to pay off some other things before I jump in. I'm open to suggestion on pipes. I've had Vance & Hines pipes for many times, different bikes, and I've been looking at the S&S pipes for the Grand Nationals or whatever. I heard some on a bike at the dealer, and you all know that I don't really like super loud bikes. You know, it's a preference thing for me. I like a rumble, but I don't like a loud, blatty exhaust system. You know, I'm not running a fuel dragster or anything. I just want to hear that rumble, but I don't want to be fighting the noise. But they've got a dB reducer in them apparently that helps out, and from what I heard sitting in the dealer showroom, it sounded pretty nice. And of course, everything these days, slip-ons, still $400, and the bike's already set up with a free flow air cleaner from the factory. The 114 is, but that's what I'm leaning towards, is that S&S. Reinhardts are nice, but they're expensive, and frankly I think they're too loud. Tab mufflers that I've seen, they're just really loud. And with the Vance & Hines, they sound okay, but for my money you've got to buy their additional quiet baffle to really make them sound the way I like. So still kicking it around. It's going to be a little while before I can do this anyway. So anyway, so that's the thought that I'm having today. Just spent a little over coffee, a little time with Tim Collins of 40 Times Around. He was in town, and I wanted to meet the guy, so we met and had a chat. He gave me some tips on camera stuff, and I appreciate that. Thanks, Tim. And it was nice to meet you, man. Anyway, it's a nice clear day. Wispy clouds, winter type clouds we have here in Arizona. It's supposed to be a chance of rain sometime later in the week, but for now it's beautiful. So nice having a day off during the week. I'm sure the people at work are using my name in vain right now, but you know what, Randy deserves a little break too, so that's what I'm doing today. I know the dog sure appreciated me being home this morning, so that, did a little few chores around the house, and of course I had to go clean up the bike, so you know, because it had a couple specks of dust, and my reputation has always been for spotless bikes, so I can't really get away from that. So I have more potions and cleaning stuff than a French whorehouse has perfume. So that's the way it is, and that's my life. So I'm living it. I am enjoying this Heritage immensely. It doesn't really feel tremendously more heavy than the Slim does, but it just rides so much better. The suspension is better, I think. The Slim has the slammed low suspension on it, and it's very, very harsh, the shock was. The new monoshock system that they have on these things has better rebound dampening than the old shocks did, which were pretty crude, really. The stuff that I had, the twin shocks on the Dyna and the air shocks on the touring bikes, they were okay, but they were not fantastic. But I've still got that air pump that I don't use anymore. It's too small to use as a bicycle pump, and well, I don't have the air shocks anymore, so yeah, still it paid for itself the few times, or the several times I got to use it. It seems those air shocks would always bleed down a little bit, and next thing you know, you're noticing that you're bottoming out. So check the air pressure, you're down to like 4 pounds or such, and I usually ran around 15. So I'm not the lightest guy in the world. Truck. God, I love this view. You got the superstitions out there to the 1 o'clock. Just beautiful, beautiful today. And just the colors, the way their sun is hitting the mountains today is just awesome. The Beeline Highway used to be a racetrack out here, Beeline Dragway back in the 70s and stuff. I've actually run bikes on that way back in those days, and I had a 750 Triumph. I actually ran a 1340 on 99 miles per hour. That was pretty speedy for a 750 Triumph back in those days. It was mostly stock, had cams in it, and bigger carburetors, but that was it, and TT pipes. Well, that trailer is swaying. Not really windy today, so I don't know if he's just poorly set up or what, but yeah, I gotta get past those guys. They make me nervous. So. Cruising around, 2,700 RPM at 75 miles an hour. This seems very leisurely. Just to roll it on a little bit. Get that oil flowing back under those jets underneath the pistons in these motors. I've had several twin cams, and I've had a couple Milwaukee 8s, and I got to tell you, the Milwaukee 8 is a vastly superior motor. It just, the torque, the smoothness. Some people will argue, well, it doesn't sound as good as a twin cam. Well, I'll argue a twin cam doesn't sound as good as an Evo, and an Evo doesn't sound as good as a shovel head. I don't think shovel heads were the best sounding Harleys ever made. And I imagine the old guys will argue that panheads and knuckleheads sounded better, but, you know, I like the shovel heads, the way they sounded. The twin cams, they were okay. You know, I've had a couple of them, and the 103 was a good motor, very torquey. I preferred the 96-inch motor that I had. It seemed to like a little bit more RPM than the 103s had. Did, you know, I was always under 3 grand on that bike, even at highway speeds. But the 96-inch, I had an 07 Street Bob, like 3,500 RPM, and it was super snappy at that speed. Run around in 5th gear, hardly ever used 6th on that bike unless I was out of town. But the 103s will pull that 6th gear down to lower RPM without lugging or anything, so that was pretty cool. But the Milwaukee 8 is just mechanically quieter, smoother, much more refined. I like that they've gone back to the single cam, and the 8 valves allow it to breathe a little bit more than the other ones, and you can run a higher compression ratio. I guess compression ratio on 114 is 10.5 to 1. I mean, you ran that on an Evo, they would detonate themselves to death in this hot climate that we have here. But so far so good. Transmission's still a little stiff, as they are when they're new. Finding neutral when it's cold is next to impossible, but that, my experience is that breaks in and the neutral becomes less elusive over time, and the transmission shifts a lot smoother too. It usually takes about 1,000 miles. It's one of those Yamahanikons. Haven't seen one of those on the highway yet since until now. Got 3 wheels, 2 wheels in the front, running that 3-cylinder Yamaha MT-09 motor. kind of interesting. I'm not sure I'd want one, but it's certainly different. It's like Yamaha flexing their design muscles. You know, you expect something like that from Honda to make something, well, let's call it weird. It is a little weird, but I think that's one of those, they build it because they could bikes, not because the people were clamoring for it. You know, it's one of those things that down the road will become a collectible. And change the subject here a little bit. Those of you who blog out there, camera settings is something that I'm still relatively new to. I'm running 1080p, 60 frames per second. I got some advice today on microphone settings, so I'm going to try that later. And but I'm not doing anything in 4K because it takes a god-awful amount of time to upload, and a lot of people can't view 4K. They don't have the codec for it. In fact, I had to download that codec myself. It only costs $1, but still, to even view my own 4K videos. So it just seems to me that while you can get some amazing sharp videos, the 1080p seems to work just fine, especially for the motovlogging. I did do one at 720 and it uploaded faster, but the quality wasn't there, and I wasn't really happy with that. But I am open to suggestions and input on camera settings for the GoPro Hero 7 Black. There. Alright, I know, I better behave on my new motor, but a little blast didn't hurt nothing. Nice and warm today. I would say right now, I would say it's probably around 70. The mountains are awesome. Get around this motorhome. Anyway, I'm going to be stopped to get some fuel here shortly, so I'm going to sign off. This is Randytbird. If you like what you're seeing, subscribe. Hey, I picked up a couple new subscribers this weekend. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm up to 41 now, so things are growing. Not glacially anymore. They're growing, and with more subscribers, I get more views. I like that. And if you got suggestions on what you'd like to see, please comment and let me know. Anyway, Randytbird signing off.